I used to believe money solved everything. It certainly solved most things for me. Private jets, 5-star hotels, invitations to galas where people smiled just a little too much. But love wasn't for sale. At least, not the kind I wanted. So here I was, a self-made millionaire, pretending to be a man who had nothing. Wearing an old ripped jeans, and boots with holes in the soles, I looked invisible. And it felt oddly peaceful. It wasn't the plan, not really. At first, it was supposed to be a joke, a crazy bet I made with myself. After my last breakup, another woman who loved my bank account far more than she ever loved me. But now I wasn't so sure. I Saturday on a worn-out bench at the corner of 7th Avenue and 32nd, a spot where people walked by, eyes locked on their phones, coffee cups in hand, pretending not to notice the man who clearly didn't belong. That man was me. Rough day. I turned my head slowly. There she was. A woman in her early 30s, simple jeans, soft brown coat, messy ponytail, and those eyes warm, curious, kind. I didn't know her, yet something about the way she looked at me, like I wasn't invisible, it hit me harder than it should have. She smiled gently, holding out a paper cup of coffee. "Og, you could use this?" I blinked. No one ever offered me anything without expecting something in return. Not in my world. I hesitated, and for a moment, I almost told her who I was. But the fear of seeing her smile fade, I wasn't ready for that. "Thank you," I said, taking the cup. My fingers brushed against hers. Warm hands. Real. She sat her day down beside me. No hesitation. No fear. "My name's Emily," she said. "I work at the shelter down the street." "Emily." "I'm James," I lied. "Just James." Her smile didn't change. She didn't ask for my story. Didn't pry. She just sat her day with me, in silence. I'd spent a lifetime surrounded by people who never stopped talking, but somehow, this silence felt good. And in that silence, my mind started racing. What if she was different? What if this wasn't about pity? What if she saw something in me, not the millionaire, not the brand, just me? I didn't want to believe it. It was safer not to. Because hoping for something real meant risking everything I was afraid to lose. "I come here sometimes," she said after a while. "People like us, we get used to being invisible. People like us." I almost laughed. If only she knew who I really was. But somehow, I didn't want her to know. Not yet. Not until I knew if this was real. The next morning, I was back on that same bench. Same same worn-out boots. I didn't even know why. Maybe I was waiting for her. Or maybe I was afraid of going back to my real life, the boardrooms, the polished lies, the hollow smiles. Emily didn't show up. But someone else did. Really, Michael? I sighed. I didn't even bother looking up. I knew that voice better than my own. "Good morning, Daniel," I muttered. Daniel Foster, my personal assistant for the past 8 years. A man who ran my schedule, managed my business deals, and, apparently, tracked me down even when I dressed like a homeless man in Midtown. He Saturday down next to me, wrinkling his perfect Armani suit as if the bench might infect him. "I'm all for your little social experiments, but this," he glanced around, "this is insane." "Is it?" I asked quietly. He gave me that look, the one that said, "I'm about to lecture you like your life coach and your mother combined. You're the CEO of Callahan Holdings. You have a board meeting in 2 days. The merger with Easton Tech isn't going to happen by itself." I stared ahead, watching the endless stream of strangers pass by. "Do you know what I realized, Daniel?" He sighed. "I'm sure you'll tell me." I turned my head toward him, lowering my voice. "In my world, everyone wants something. Money, power, access, the usual. And you think this disguise will lead you to someone who doesn't?" Daniel asked, his tone sharp. I didn't answer right away, because honestly, I didn't know. "I'm not looking for charity," I whispered. "I'm looking for honesty." Daniel shook his head slowly. "Michael, you can't build a life on a lie, even if you're lying for the right reasons." His words stung more than I cared to admit. Maybe because I knew he was right. But I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. "Just watch your back," Daniel said finally, standing up. "There are people who'd love nothing more than to see Michael Callahan crash and burn." I gave him a faint smile. Little did I know, one of those people was already watching me. And he wasn't far away. The thing about hiding in plain sight is that you start thinking you're actually invisible. I should have known better. It happened that same afternoon. I was sitting on the bench, flipping through an old newspaper someone had left behind, trying to look occupied, when I heard it. A slow, mocking clap. I frowned. "See? Well, if it isn't Michael Callahan, the king of Wall Street, dressed like a street rat." I looked up. Standing in front of me, sleek black coat, leather gloves, a smug grin, was Victor Hale. Corporate predator, ruthless investor, and the last person on earth I wanted to see. Victor was everything I despised in business, and everything I feared becoming. "What are you doing here, Victor?" I asked, keeping my voice even. He smirked. "Oh, don't mind me, just taking a stroll. And what do I find?" He leaned in. "My favorite rival, playing hobo in downtown Manhattan." My jaw clenched. Victor had always been sharp to sharp for his own good. If he smelled blood, he didn't let go. "You spying on me now?" I asked. He chuckled darkly. Relax, Michael. I'm not here to ruin your little undercover project. But the way he said it didn't sound like a promise. I gotta say, he glanced around, lowering his voice. This is bold, risky, stupid. Why do you care? I shot back. Victor's grin widened. Oh, I don't, but the press might. The board of directors, your investors. He let the words hang in the air. Imagine the headlines. He straightened his coat, giving me a slow nod. I wonder what they'd think if they knew the great Michael Callahan was out here, begging for coffee from bleeding heart charity girls. My heart slammed against my ribs. Victor leaned closer. I'd watch my step if I were you. And just like that, he turned and walked away. I sat there, staring at his back as it disappeared into the crowd. Victor Hale didn't make idle threats. And suddenly, this little game didn't feel like a game anymore. Emily found me again the next evening. Same bench, same coffee, same soft smile that somehow felt real. She sat beside me without a word, handed me a sandwich, peanut butter and jelly, wrapped in a napkin. I stared at it. I could have bought 100 of these on my way to my penthouse, but this felt priceless. You don't have to do this, I murmured. She shrugged lightly. I know. Silence settled between us. Not awkward, not forced, just comfortable. I glanced at her, really looked at her this time. There was a tiredness behind her eyes, not the kind money could fix. And suddenly, I wanted to know everything about her. Why do you do it? I asked softly. The shelter, helping people like me. She smiled faintly. My mom, she used to say people are just people. She stared ahead, voice low. No one deserves to be invisible. I felt something tighten in my chest. I'd spent years hiding behind titles and walls, and here she was, tearing them down with a single sentence. I guess I know what it feels like, she whispered, to be overlooked. I wanted to ask her why. Who had hurt her? Who had made her feel small in a world that should have seen her? But I didn't. Because if I asked, I'd have to answer too. And I wasn't ready for that. So I sat there, eating that simple sandwich like it was the finest meal I'd ever had. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't pretending. Not even a little. The text came at midnight. I was sitting on the floor of my penthouse, audio still on, window open to the cold city air. I couldn't sleep. And when I saw the name on the screen, I knew why. Victor Hale, check the news tomorrow. Thought you'd like a heads up, James. My blood turned cold. I knew what that meant. Victor wasn't bluffing. He never bluffed. I called Daniel. He'd picked up on the first ring. Let me guess, Victor. I rubbed my face, swallowing hard. What do you know? Daniel's voice dropped. There's a leak. Some gossip sites got photos of you on the bench with Emily. My heart slammed against my chest. Damn it, I whispered. Daniel kept going, voice sharp. They're spinning it. A Michael Callahan's Secret Life, Double Life of a Billionaire. He posted. And Emily, they're calling her your homeless lover. I closed my eyes. Emily, she didn't deserve this. Can we kill the story? I asked. Daniel sighed. I'm working on it, but Victor's pulling strings. He wants this out. I knew exactly why. Victor wanted to ruin me, not just in business, but everywhere. And now, he had a weapon. Emily. A woman who didn't even know who I really was, and was about to be dragged into a storm she never saw coming. I stood up slowly, staring at the city lights outside my window. There was only one thing I knew for sure. I couldn't let her get hurt. I found her in the park. Same bench, same soft smile when she saw me. And it broke something inside me. She didn't know, not yet. But she would. I sat her day beside her, clutching the coffee I didn't even remember buying. My hands were shaking. Hey, she said softly. Her eyes searched mine. You okay? I swallowed hard. No, I'm not. She tilted her head slightly, waiting, not pushing, not judging. I looked at the ground, forcing the words out before I lost my nerve. My name isn't James. Silence. I felt her eyes on me, steady, pained. I'm Michael Callahan. Her brow furrowed. The Michael Callahan. I nodded. Yes. I waited for the anger, the shock, the disappointment. It didn't come. She just stared at me, her expression unreadable. I forced myself to keep going. I never meant to lie to you. I needed to know if someone could see me, not my money, not my name. I lifted my eyes to hers. I needed to know if you could see me. She was quiet for a long time. And then, she smiled. Not the soft, polite smile she gave strangers. Not the careful, guarded smile I'd seen before. A real smile. You're a terrible liar, Michael, she whispered. I blinked. And then, laughed. A real laugh, the kind I hadn't felt in years. She shook her head slowly. I knew you weren't who you said you were, but I figured, if you were pretending, maybe you had your reasons. Her voice softened, and maybe you were just looking for something real too. I stared at her, completely undone. And for the first time since this started, I didn't feel like a fraud. I felt seen. And maybe loved. The headline hit the morning after. Bold letters splashed across every news site. every business blog, every gossip page in the city. Billionaire's secret life, Michael Callahan's romance with shelter worker exposed. With a photo. May, Emily, on that bench, her handing me a coffee, me looking at her like the rest of the world didn't exist. I Saturday in Daniel's office, staring at the screen, hands clenched into fists. "This is bad," Daniel said quietly. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. It was worse than bad. My board was furious. Investors were panicking. Clients were questioning my sanity. And Emily, she hadn't answered my calls. I stood up, shoving the chair back. "I'm going to find her." Daniel gave me a sharp look. "You realize Victor's probably loving every second of this." I nodded. "And I don't care. Because this wasn't about business. This was about Emily." I left the office, pushed past reporters outside the building, ignored the flashing cameras and shouted questions. I didn't stop until I reached the shelter. She was there, packing boxes, her hair pulled back, her face pale. She looked up when I walked in. And for a moment, neither of us said a word. "I'm sorry," I whispered. She nodded slowly. "I know." I took a step closer. "I'll fix this. I'll protect you." Her eyes softened, but there was a sadness there I hadn't seen before. "I don't need you to protect me, Michael." She paused. "I just need you to be real." I swallowed hard. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I could. Victor's office was perched on the 35th floor of a glass tower downtown. Cold, polished, ruthless, just like him. I didn't make an appointment. I didn't call ahead. I walked straight past his assistant and into his office. Victor didn't even flinch. He sat behind his massive desk, swirling a glass of whiskey in his hand. "Well, if it isn't Manhattan's favorite charity case," he smirked. I closed the door behind me, took 2 steps forward, met his eyes hard, unblinking. "Enough, Victor." He chuckled. "Enough of what? I didn't write the headlines. The world just loves a good scandal." I clenched my fists. "You dragged Emily into this. You crossed a line." He leaned back lazily. "Business is business, Michael. You should know that by now." I stepped closer. "My life is not your business, and neither is hers." Victor's smirk faded, just a little. "Careful," he said softly. "You're making this personal." I nodded. "It is personal." He stared at me for a long, cold moment. And then, he laughed. A low, sharp sound. You really think you can scare me? He asked. You're a walking headline, Callahan. One wrong move, and you're finished. I smiled. So steady. Then maybe it's time I write my own headline. Victor's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I leaned in. My story, my truth, I'll take it public. I'll tell them everything, the charity work, the undercover project, the real reasons I walked away from the corporate circus. He scoffed. They'll crucify you. I shook my head. Or maybe they'll finally see something real. Victor stared at me, and for the first time, I saw it. Dow. I turned to leave, but stopped at the door. I looked back at him, at the man I could have become, and never wanted to be. Enjoy the headlines, Victor. Because this time, I'll be the one writing them. The press conference room at the Callahan Foundation was packed. Reporters, cameras, blinding lights. I stood behind the podium, hands gripping its edges, heart pounding like a war drum. Daniel stood to the side, arms crossed, eyes locked on me. No words, just a slight nod. This was it. The moment I stopped hiding. I cleared my throat, looked out at the sea of faces waiting for blood. My name is Michael Callahan. Cameras clicked, voices whispered. I took a slow breath. For the past few months, I've been living a different life. A flicker of confusion moved through the room. Not because I lost everything, not because I went crazy, but because I needed to remember what it means to be human. I paused for long, silent beats. Success, wealth, they don't make you invincible. They don't make you happy. They make you a target, a headline, a brand. I scanned the room, letting every word settle like a stone. I stepped away because I was tired of people seeing a number instead of a name. More murmurs, flashes of surprise. And along the way, I met someone. Emily. Her face flashed in my mind, soft eyes, gentle smile. A woman who didn't know who I was and didn't care. A woman who saw me when I wasn't trying to be seen. A hush fell over the room. I let the pause hang. 3 long, silent seconds. I won't apologize for looking for something real. I straightened my shoulders. And I won't let anyone use her to destroy me. I locked eyes with the nearest camera. This is my story, and no one else will tell it for me. Silence. Then, a single pair of hands clapping. Daniel? And then another and another, until the room erupted. I stood there not as Michael Callahan, the billionaire, but as a man who finally had nothing to hide. I found her by the river. Same bench, saying when tugging at her hair. Only this time, she saw me coming. She didn't look away, didn't stand up. She just waited. I sat there beside her. The silence stretched between us thick, heavy, but not empty. I saw the press conference, she said softly. I nodded. I meant every word. She turned to me, eyes softer than I remembered, but filled with something deeper. You know, I didn't care that you were Michael Callahan, she whispered. I cared that you didn't trust me enough to tell me. Her words cut deep, not with anger, but with truth. I swallowed hard. I was afraid. She gave a soft, sad smile. So was I. I reached for her hand, slow, careful, like I was afraid she'd disappear. She didn't pull away. I don't want to hide anymore, I said quietly. From you, from anyone. She looked down at our hands, then back at me. I don't want to be part of a lie, she whispered. I shook my head. You won't be. I held her gaze, steady, honest, real. I want a life with you, Emily, whatever that looks like. No games, no masks, no more lies. She searched my face for a long moment. And then, she squeezed my hand gently. Okay. I felt my chest tighten, and then, release. I smiled raw, unguarded. So, friends first, I teased softly. She laughed quietly. Friends first, and then we'll see. And right there, on that old bench by the river, I realized I wasn't pretending anymore. And neither was she. A month later, we Saturday on the same bench. Only this time, no disguises, no secrets. Just us. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. The sun dipped low over the Hudson, casting the city in gold. People walked by. Some recognized me, a few even whispered. But I didn't care. I wasn't hiding anymore. Daniel called me that morning, said the board wanted me back. The headlines had shifted from scandal to story of redemption. I told him I'd think about it. Because for once, the future didn't scare me. I wasn't chasing deals or running from headlines. I was just living beside the woman who saw me before the world did. Emily smiled up at me. So, what now, Michael Callahan? I wrapped my arm around her shoulders, pulled her closer. Now, I smiled. Now we begin. And that was the only headline that ever really mattered.